the basic assumptions that we now have because of our assumption, because of our education that we have, like the world is made up of atoms, is the basic assumption we have. Material reductionism, and when we think of numbers, we think of a number line, things like those, right? He came from a tradition which was totally different. That is not how you looked at the world. In this framework of dravya, guna, and karma, they actually map everything that we can think about, from living beings as atmas to physical things as prithvi, jal, vayu, tej. So an integrated, logical way of looking at the world. So a lot of these murti puja kinds of things that we have does not come from the Veda. They don't come from the Nigam. They come from the Agamas. So there are all kinds of Agamas, Shaiva Agama, Vaishnava Agama, but all of them comes through the Devi is what we. So four kinds of knowing is there. And in 10th century, there was a guy called Gangesho Upadhyay who wrote a book called Tattva Chintamani, which has four parts for each of the pramanas, describing the process of how should a human being use all the four pramanas to get only what he called yathartha gyan, true knowledge, and not a yathartha gyan, which is delusionary. So Nyaya is a logical way of getting to Mukti.
Okay, hi, Nikilesh. It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
And so for the viewers, we are going to unpack a very exciting topic today, which is completely new for me as well. So I'm literally going to unpack this, and I assume that will be very, very useful for you all also, because for you all also it will be an unpacking. And Nikilesh, why don't you first just give a little brief intro about yourself and what work you're doing, because I think the work is tied to this entire topic as well. So I think it will be a very good starting point.
So I am engineer by an education, did a lot of startups, starting like in last decade, 3, 4 startups. I was CTO of a company called First India. I worked in healthcare tech, but that is one part of my life. The other part is that my father was a Sanskrit grammarian, and he studied in the Guru Shishya tradition in Varanasi, and he was a professor of Sanskrit grammar in Delhi. That's where I grew up, and I was exposed since childhood to a completely different way of looking at things. So the basic assumptions that we now have because of our assumption, because of our education that we have, like the world is made up of atoms, is the basic assumption we have. Material reductionism, and when we think of numbers, we think of a number line, things like those, right? He came from a tradition which was totally different. That is not how you looked at the world. So since childhood, I had two different ways of looking at the world.
Wow, that sounds so fascinating. We have so much to ask you over here, but I don't want to, otherwise we'll totally digress. But it's very exciting. Give us an example. No, tell us something.
Yeah. Let me finish that what I do today. Okay. So after like 7 years back, I sort of shifted from my technology career, and I started doing something in technology only, applying one of the shastras which my father was an expert at. Not his primary shastra is for Vyakaran, but Sanskrit Vyakaran and Navya Nyaya are the two topics which I took up and found their applicability in computer science. And right now, I run a research startup which is trying to build a computer language based on these principles. I think that's the thing. But we'll come to you. Ask for an example, right?
Yeah. And also, okay, wait. So you said computer language on Sanskrit grammar and Nyaya Shastra.
Nyaya Shastra, Navya Nyaya, yeah.
Which you will talk about later. So yeah,
yeah.
You talk about, give us a few examples, especially number line and all you mentioned.
So Navya Nyaya, so for our sake of this discussion, Navya Nyaya is a very vast topic, but I can start with one of the postulates of Navya Nyaya is that whatever we can conceptualize, think about, is meaning of some word. Okay, so basically the word is padartha. Padartha means padasya artha, meaning of a word. And they say that whatever is prameya means that which can be known. So whatever can be known is a padartha, is meaning of some word. And they say that meanings of all words can be at the top level categorized in 7 categories, which they name as dravya, guna, karma, samanya, vishesha, samavaya, and abhava. And they look at the world, these Nayayikas, they look at the world as made up of padarthas, and which does not necessarily mean atoms only, right? There are 9 dravyas, which are dravyas for them is something which has gunas and karma, properties and
Action.
activities, actions. Yeah. So out that, and there are 9 dravyas, out of which 5 are the pancha mahabhootas. They have 4 more dravyas: tik, kal, man, and atma. So dik and kal are space and time. So, and these 9 dravyas can have gunas. Various dravyas can have various gunas, and there are 24 gunas. One of the gunas is sankhya. So they don't look at number as a number line thing by which you can measure. Sankhya is a gun of a dravya. And there are other gunas. The other gunas are, so sankhya, parimana. Parimana means volume is a better long translation. Measure. I think basically whatever can be measured. Sankhya is countably measurable, and pariman is measurable not necessarily in terms of discrete numbers, but as sort of a continuous whole. So sankhya, pariman, prithakatva, sanyoga, vibhaga. There are 24 of them, which are the gunas of the dravyas. Out of the pancha mahabhootas can form objects. So Prithvi can form a pot. And there are 5 pots there. We say that they share a guna called Sankhya, which is 5. And Sankhya has these properties, like because we started with number line. So we said, and they have a sort of what is called a meta language. A canonical, the way we have a language of mathematics, Nyaya has a language to describe whatever we are knowing in a non-ambiguous way, in which Sankhyas are treated as ekatva, dvitva, tritva, oneness, two-ness, threeness. And they would say that threeness implies two-ness. So let us say I know that there are 3 pots there, and somebody asks me, are there 2 pots? The answer is yes, because threeness implies two-ness.
You mean if 3 are there are also 2 pots?
Yes. So that is their conceptualization of number, Sankhya, which is different from Pariman, which is a real number. And they have, other 24 has similar conceptualizations for Roop, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha, which are the properties that we can perceive through our sense organs. Then they have other gunas, which, because Atma is also a dravya, so they have a gunas of Atma, which 9 in number. Jnana, Sukh, Dukh, Ichha, Dvesh, Prayatna, Dharma, Adharma, and Sanskar are the 9 gunas of Atma.
So then the 24 gunas don't apply to Atma?
Not all of them apply to all of them.
Yeah.
9 apply to Atma. So no, the 5 belongs to all of them. Sankhya, Parimana, Prithakatva, Sanyog, Vibhag. They 5 are there in all dravyas. The remaining 15, some of them have some, others don't have some. So in the Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha, Shabda, so water carries Rasa, right? But water does not have Gandha. So it also has Rupa. Now the Vayu has does not have Roop also, right? So but it has touch, Sparsha. So all the 5 have Shabda. The Vayu has Shabda and Sparsha. The Agni has Shabda, Sparsha, and Rupa. Jal has the first 4, the Shabdas, Sparsha, Roop, and Rasa. Jal also have Rasa, and Prithvi has all 5, Gandha. So that is how they in this framework of Dravya, Guna, and Karma, they actually map everything that we can think about. From living beings as Atmas to physical things as Prithvi, Jal, Vayu, Tej. So an integrated, logical way of looking at the world. So
from which, is this the entire Indic view, or is it specific to a specific community?
So if you want to give an entire Indic view, I can take you a little out of it, because we started with Nyaya and we got into it. So there is other ways we can talk about it. If you want to know about the Shastric, the Indic sciences, what is the way of looking at it as an entirety, it's a very difficult thing to do, because it's so many of them. But I would roughly say that there are 3 traditions: the Vedic one, the Jain one, and the Buddhist one. Okay. And they are sort of 3 overlapping circles. There are concepts which are shared by all 3. Karma, rebirth, all of it is shared in Jain, Bauddha, and Vedic view. So I will get into the Vedic view. Inside the Vedic view, you can roughly divide it into two things, what we call Agama and Nigama. So we say that everything is like ultimate guru is Shiva, and Shiva only taught everything. And what he taught through the Saptarishis is what we call Nigam. What he taught through the Devi is what we call Agam. Basically.
Wow.
So
I didn't know it was like Saptarishis versus Devi.
versus is not the
yeah, I know.
yeah, they have they talk about the same thing, but probably more amenable to the masculine versus the feminine mind.
Oh, really? Wow.
So Nigam is the Veda. Nigam is another word for Vedas.
Oh, I think
and
I understand.
Agam is another word for Tantra.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead. So Vedas and Tantra.
Yeah. That is roughly the. So a lot of these Murti Puja kinds of things that we have does not come from the Veda. They don't come from the Nigam. They come from the Agamas. So there are all kinds of Agamas, Shaiva Agama, Vaishnava Agama, but all of them comes through the Devi is what we. So within the Nigam, I sort of make this diagram to explain to people. Probably I'll put it up. You can add to the later. So I say the center is the Veda. And around it, let's imagine a concentric circle, which I divide into 4 parts, 90 degrees in the outer circle. And there are 4 things. One of them is what we call darshanas, the Shabd darshanas, the 6 of them, which is the philosophical interpretation of what the Vedas tell us. And one of them is Nyaya. There are other 5. Then on another concentric circle, 90 degrees, let's imagine what we call Vedanga. These are again 6 sciences, which are Jyotish, Vyakaran, Kalpa, Nirukta, Shiksha, and Chanda. These are sciences used to interpret and use the Vedas. Vyakaran is used for finding meaning of the Veda. Jyotish is used for finding the timings for the Vedic practices. Kalpa is the Shastra of actually performing the ritual. What are the elements used in the ritual? Chanda is the Shastra of the meter, the poetry ka meter in the Vedas.
Yeah, that's
Nirukta
true.
Nirukta is the Shastra of etymology, where it is the meanings of words come from. And what remains? Shiksha. Shiksha is the practice of pronunciation, pronouncing the Vedas. So these are the tools. The 6 darshanas are philosophical interpretation. 6 Vedangas are tools for using the Veda. The remaining 2 sides, 90 degrees, one of them is the Itihas and the Puran, the stories which tell in a simplified manner the same wisdom which is there in the Veda. And the 4th 90 degree, I put at the remaining all Shastras clubbed together, which primarily are in 3 categories: Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, and Kama Shastra. But within them, there are so many of them, like Ayurveda, Vastu Shastra, which are basically covers Artha Shastra to some degree, Vastu and all of them. So it's 3 aspects of life: Dharma, Artha, and Kama, and particularly useful Shastras in them.
Why is Jyotish in Vedanga and Ayurveda is in Shastra?
Yes, because Jyotish is essential for performing the Vedic way of living the Vedic way of life. I would say. So there is some, I would not say vague, but there is some idea of a Vedic era when there was a very pure ritualistic life. And that time, the Vedangas appeared. They were early. They have, in the traditional school, they were always taught together as 6 Vedangas. And Vedangas are about specifically Vedas. They are about interpretation and utilization of Veda, using the Vedas. There are tools for that. But you can say that many of them later on developed into their own thing, not just for interpreting the Vedas. For example, Jyotish actually evolved a lot from the Vedanga Jyotish. The current Jyotish has very less to do with Veda.
That sounds, because the other things you mentioned in Vedang was like Chand and pronunciation and etymology. Those are very far from like a Jyotish, at least how we know now.
Yes.
So probably
Yes. But the earlier Jyotish Granthas were very close to, you can say that, to the usage of Veda.
Okay.
I think that's the entire gamut, out of which I picked up Nyaya and I went into Nyaya. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, wonderful. So, no, it's such a great intro now. So, I have some placement. So, this is the Saptarishi science. And so, it's probably a little more masculine also. So, we get prepped like logic. We have to use our brain. Okay.
Agamas are not organized like this. Agamas, I think, are, in fact, I can't even say whether they're organized at all. They have practices which are later on, we collected them together, we know. And if we have to sort of categorize them by the primary the deity that they address. Shaivagama,
Yes.
Vaishnavagama, Shaktagama, Ganapatya Agamas. There are other tantras which are non-Vedic tantras which we should say are covered in Agamas. Though Agamas primarily we put in the Vedic fact, but there are both the tantras. The Vajrayan, the Tibetan school is again tantra, but both the tantra.
No, because the Agamas are a lot of stuff, especially that falls under these various traditions. They are contradict each other also. So it's a little, it's fairly
They're not
haywire
logical.
actually. No.
They are not. It's not about logic. It's about practice and more feminine in nature, you can say.
Yeah, so what it makes me resonate is Sadhguru has said this one thing, like even that whole, on Adiyogi, the statue, there is a Divya Darshanam, the light show. So the main story arc is about this, where it talks about the Saptarishis who did so much of sadhana and then finally Shiva transmitted.
Yes.
And then he talks about Parvati sees this and she's like, okay, what is this? Even I want to know.
Yes.
But then the transmission for her was completely different because for her, they made it Ardhanarishwara. She just became part of Shiva.
Yes.
So then it is interesting because then those sciences are coming differently, as you are saying. Agama is all Heva because you're pretty much just, but the way the transmission to Saptarishis happened, it would be all like broken pieces.
Yes, it's very properly broken.
Yes.
Yeah. It's and in the sort of the up until almost 17th century, the Vedangas and the Darshanas were taught properly in a school, almost as organized as we today have colleges and faculties, departments, and maintaining of journals. They in fact have teaching methodologies. So all 6 darshanas and the 6 Vedangas have that a sort of a format of teaching, which are the Sutra Bhashya Vartik format. Sutras are these aphorisms which you remember. Before understanding them, small children used to remember them so that you know the entire gamut. Over time, you will know them, know their meaning. Bhashyas are like 3 to 4 pages for every sutra. Vartikas are sort of teaching techniques attached with the sutras, and some mistakes if there are in the bhashya, or if there is something the bhashya says which some people don't agree with, that will all come out in Vartikas. So there was a teaching methodology along with the Shastras totally.
Great. Yeah. So I think it's a great prep to start into the Nyaya Darshan bit. Maybe a little bit, give us a background of your personal thing. Why did you even take to it? I mean, did your father specifically teach you this Nyaya?
No, my father did not actually ever sat me and taught anything. I learned because I kept asking. I knew Sanskrit since childhood, a little bit, but I kept asking, and over a lot of period of time, I made my views of Nyaya and Vyakaran, and not in a single sitting or not in a proper setting.
Formal teaching, yeah, there was no formal teaching.
Formal teaching. Though I was exposed to the granthas, I knew so the first 2 sort of preliminary starting granthas, one for Vyakaran, everybody starts with Siddhanta Kaumudi, or a smaller version of it is called Lagu Siddhanta Kaumudi. And for Nyaya, you start with a book called Tarka Sangraha, which are the early initial books. So they were sort of taught to me. So I learned them, and then I asked my father questions. And then the higher books, the more involved books, I read on my own, or those topics were covered to me in general discussion with my father. Then I went into the books and got it. And why did I pick it up was, so my tech career was more into product management and consulting, where I was sort of breaking down real world problems to fit into the paradigm that technology provides me. You are exposed to some programming technology stuff.
I'm not a programmer, but yeah, I know the logic format.
Yeah. So the let's say object orientation, like it's a paradigm in which we try to map the world in objects. Objects is something which has a state and a behavior, right? So, or a RDBMS database is a relational database which has entities and relationships. So we try to map the world's reality into this to model it. We create a table called person, which has attributes and has relationship with another table called designation, let us say, for an organization. And it was always cumbersome. It always felt that I am like force fitting the reality. And I was into healthcare tech, where things are really messy, it are not straightforward. And if you have to design a software for a hospital process, there are so many factors that the clean cut RDBMS and object oriented thing does not fit. You break the paradigm to actually make it work always. So I always used to think that what can be that paradigm in which I will be able to straightforward tell the reality of the world and the computer will understand.
That will be very cool. That will make it easy also for us to code, right? The
Yes,
non-techie.
yes. And then I also realized that the development in the west of computer science, especially in the US, California, last sort of 30, 40 years of development, and even object orientation, and before that, when the first earliest AI started, it had a link with Western philosophy. If you look at McCarthy's paper, the first, what we call the father of AI, he was in the 50s. They will refer to George Boole, who invented Boolean logic, and before that to go to Aristotle actually.
Oh.
They will say that Aristotle was the first to define syllogisms, and then I realized that what is the equivalent of that in our culture. So our Nyaya is our system of logic.
Oh,
Basically.
wow.
Yeah. So I thought probably something is there. So we did this, and we have come up with something which is, I think, useful. It will come out in some time. The research is just now finished. We are filing patents, and we want to file patents and have all of that security. I think we have fundamentally invented a paradigm in which a man can tell a computer and it will understand more or less in the terms of these padarthas and the relationship between them, which has a sort of a 2,500-year tradition of making a claim that whatever human mind can think, we can encode in this format. Right? It's a claim. It's not. There are things. Nyaya is not everything, but Nyaya is more than enough for practical life concepts to be told to a computer. It might not be very useful for Adhyatma, but it is very useful for living life. Right? And designing things for law, and wherever there is this human flexibility, which the machine, it does not fit into a machine clearly. Nyaya has that middle way in which it allows for that flexibility, still maintaining a structure. So, because it's yeah.
So yeah, we could. One is that you're basically thus, as you said, you're going back to the entire fundamental logic behind digital systems. Yes. Because you talk about Boolean. Boolean is like
the fundamental.
The 1, not 0, 1, 0, 1, 0 thing, right?
Yes, I'm not changing it at that level. I'm using all of that. I'm writing a layer above it. But at the paradigm level, there are things that I'm bringing in. So I'm obviously a machine cannot do what a human mind can do completely. But most logical things that a human mind can do, a machine can do. Right. And if you want to, you're asking something.
Take me a moment to know. You continue. It'll take me a moment to form my idea. I was thinking something. What I was thinking, let me anyway share it because we had a pause. See, what I was thinking was that I have noticed this because I think differently usually from everyone will think differently from every other person, but I'm very aware of my thoughts and I've spent a lot of time on this. Maybe because I'm a content creator, I just reflect a lot. So one thing I realized is that so many things of life you can actually, if you break it down, if your intelligence is sharp enough and you break it down, you can put it in a very nice format which is presentable. A lot of people do not do that because I don't know, I think they don't have that inner awareness to that level which needs to be sharpened. And probably because I content create, like spiritual content creation, which is a lot of my own stuff I keep putting, that's how this whole spirituality started. Because it was a blog like 10 years back, where it was just for me to put out my thoughts in the best way I could manage.
No, you do it very well. I watched a few of yours, your Kumbh Mela one. I realized that there is a format to it and it has a complete, there is a exhaustiveness and clarity, right? Which you do.
No, I feel over time it has come because I have consciously spent on this, because my head was a muddle, which I think for most people it is. But then because I kept breaking it, I think, no, I need to figure this. So I used to think through. When you start thinking through, you can break down, and what you're talking to me makes sense to me, that a lot of things you can say in logic.
Yes.
It needs to flow.
Yes.
So I think it's very interesting. And I think if you were to make it available in whatever format you're thinking, I do think it might be quite revolutionary, actually.
There are a few organizations which want me to create a course for modern understanding of Nyaya. And I will attempt. It's hard. I will attempt. Next coming year, I'm going to do this also. So let me tell you some things about Nyaya. So which will make it more clear. So the first thing is that what I said was everything that a human mind can think is meaning of a words. So they organize it by starting with 7 types of meanings of the words. And they treat Gyan as something which is gun of an Atma. So within this system of meanings of words, because we can think about an Atma, a living being, another being, and we can think about another being's Gyan. That is why they say Gyan is also a Padartha, which is a gun of a Dravya called Atma. And they say that the Gyan is caused by 4 methods, which they call Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Shabd. Pratyaksha means through the sense organs. Indriyartha Sannikarsha Janya Jnanam Pratyaksham. इंद्रिय का इंद्रिय के अर्थ से सन्निकर्ष, कॉन्टैक्ट से उत्पन्न होने वाला ज्ञान प्रत्यक्ष है. Then they say anuman. Anuman is inference. So I heard, let us say, a dog bark somewhere on the street beyond this window. I am not looking at it. I haven't seen the dog, but I infer the dog, but I perceive the sound of the dog. So why did I infer the dog's existence? Because the sound of the dog is always there with the dog. Wherever there is sound of the dog, there must be a dog. This relationship is what they call vyapti. Which is basically Vyapti is necessary co-occurrence of 2 things, of one thing given the another. So they say that the human mind since childhood keeps collecting Vyaptis, and when you hear one of the things, you conclude the another. This is the second type of knowing. Third is Upaman, which is by analogy. I might not actually see the first thing and know that the necessary co-occurrence is there, but by analogy, if this pattern is here, I see another where the same pattern. Somebody tells me that a Nil guy is like a cow but has a taller neck, but just by the similarity I can recognize a Nil guy even if I have never seen it. Anuman, I must have a previous knowledge. Analogy, I can have a resemblance. Knowledge born out of resemblance is the third kind, analogy. Upaman. Upama shabda comes from simile. Upama is simile.
Upma, that food.
Not the simile. You know, poetry mein upma hota hai, right? Hindi poetry. It's a Sanskrit word for simile.
Oh, okay.
Upama. So Upaman means born out of Upama. And the fourth is testimony. Somebody else told us something, and that's why we know.
So what is the word you used for the fourth one?
Upamana.
No, that's the third one, no?
Second one, Anuman.
Fourth one?
Shabd. Shabd se born is Shabd. So somebody telling you. So out of hearing a Shabd, I have concluded a knowledge. So because somebody, and they say that everybody's word should not be trusted. They say apta vakya praman. So 4 kinds of knowing is there, and in 10th century there was a guy called Gangesho Upadhyay who wrote a book called Tattva Chintamani, which has 4 parts for each of the pramanas, describing the process of how should a human being use all the 4 pramanas to get only what he called yathartha gyan, true knowledge, and not a yathartha gyan, which is delusionary. So Nyaya is a logical way of getting to Mukti. They say that if you become such sharp in your logic that you always distinguish true knowledge from untrue knowledge, nitya roop se, eternally, then you become free. So it's a method of Mukti through logic. Very hard. But so it is darshan and it is also a method of Mukti. So
in the Patanjali Yog Sutras, right in the beginning, they end up saying you can take knowledge from 3 ways. One is Pratyaksha and Anuman. The third is Agam. But here I think it's kind of split only, these 2. So Upan and Shabd.
So darshanas disagree on what the pramanas are. The 4 are the Nyayas pramanas. So yoga darshan shares the first 2 with Nyaya. The what the Yoga Sutra calls Agam is part of Shabd Praman in there. They say that two kinds of Shabd can be trusted, the Vedic Shabd. So Yoga Sutra uses the word Agam for the Vedas by the way. Also, it's a very...
So the meaning I took out from it was that, I mean, I read a few, and is the word of wise people is what I...
Yes. So Nyaya Shastra is also like Agam. It's basically word of wise people.
Only Upaman has not been elaborated.
Not in Yoga Sutras.
But Upaman is also kind of a Shabda, right? Because someone is telling you.
No, but when at the point when I recognize a Nilgai to be a Nilgai, there is no Shabda. There, at that time, I am only using resemblance. So in that moment, the Gyan that is arising in my Atma is caused by resemblance, not caused by Shabda. So
you're saying the resemblance is an actual faculty thing happening?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You're identifying that as a separate... Okay.
So they actually, Nyaya people, completely dissect what happens in your head. So, by the way, this new way, this way of telling that Nyaya is actually called Navya Nyaya, the 7 Padarthas and the 4 Pramanas. There is a earlier Nyaya tradition from which this tradition evolved, which have 16 categories of what happens to the mind, which has things like Sanshaya and Viparya, that you have doubt, right? So there is a list of 16 things which happen to your mind. So I did not study that old tradition of Nyaya that much. I studied the new tradition. I know, like, at a superficial level, the old Prachin Nyaya, but they get into that all the states that the mind can take. That level of logical analysis of things.
But so if you're saying the mind is, they are observing the mind a lot and working of the mind, how do they get to that level of awareness? Because I don't know if one can, you need some practice for it, no? I mean, do you all have any?
Not in the way we understand it in yoga. They say that the method is to, so they have a concept of prama and aprama, yathartha jnana, ayathartha jnana. So the practice is to refine what you accept as true knowledge. So you saw something and you be very conscious and aware whether the pratyaksha praman is giving me the right info. My recording. Same for anuman. That if you conclude something, so there is they say swarthanuman, there is a 3-step method that you can do with yourself to recheck your anuman to be true. And same for there is a method of refining whether your upaman you have concluded true or not. And same for Shabd. For Shabd, they say trust the Vedic word, first of all. The second, they say apta vakya is also praman, which is not a Vedic vakya, but still an apta vakya, means from somebody whom you trust. And there are various rishis which have different definitions of it. One of them is that somebody who has never said a line which contradicts with the first 3 pramanas.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a tough one.
Yeah, and it says if such a person sometimes says something in contradiction to the first 3 pramanas and finds the mistake, then admits it, even then his vakya should be treated as apta. So this is their method of always avoiding knowledge which is ayathartha. Now this automatically leads to many things. For example, that Sadhguru says water has memory, right? Now, if you are very aware when you are drinking of the pratyaksha that is happening, of the taste when you drink, it will automatically happen. A lot of other things that yoga, etc., does, they will happen if you are so conscious. And so this is the intellectual people's method. Yeah, right. Intellect is sharpen your intellect so much that even while you're doing pratyaksha, you keep your intellect on and distinguish the right from the wrong. Whether the taste is sounding to you beneficial or not, seemingly beneficial or not. If it is not, then from next time don't have from that source. Or right. So that sharpening of the Nyaya Shabd means discernment. The word itself means discernment. So the method is to discern yathartha gyan from ayathartha gyan continuously at each moment.
I understand it, but I understand it as something a person would come to at some point in path of maybe their sadhana. But I don't know if someone like from without any other sadhana processes, whether someone can simply come to this, I'm not sure. Maybe certain minds, I don't know. What is your experience of it? Like, how have you?
So I'll tell you frankly, Nyaya is not my personal method of sadhana. I am doing this for applying it in computer science. Uh, my worldview also is not fully, I have gone beyond it now. I have read Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. I am far more convinced with their view of how world is. And my personal sadhana is there are some tools of Sadguru that I use. We have talked about it a little bit. And it is Kriya Yoga, but also, so my family has the Ramanama tradition also. So my Tauji is a like Delhi practitioner of it and has also got anugraha from somebody who's considered enlightened from the Ramanama Nam Jap tradition. So that's also something that naturally happens to me. It's not necessary that I sit and do it every day. I sit and do Sadguru practices every day. but once in a while, the Ram Nam Jap happens. It starts to happen, and then I notice, okay, I'm doing Sri Ram, you are right that there will be people. Now, I don't pure Nyaya method people. I think still exist. There are a few.
Wow.
It is a hard method.
Yeah.
There is somebody I met recently who I think is
pure
I
Nyaya.
always pronounce his last name incorrectly. His first name is Srinivas. I will send you a link. He's on Twitter. He's also on YouTube. He's a Nyaya. He teaches Nyaya. He's a proper in a Gurukula. He seemed like somebody whose brain is always very active of what is yathartha, what is not yathartha. So I also think that it was the first subject taught in the Gurukulas. So when an 8-year-old child came after Upanayan, they will teach him two things: basic grammar and Nyaya, so that he knows meanings of words, Sanskrit words. So if somebody can pick it up at that age, they can become like that.
Yeah. And probably it's just a powerful tool to have in general, right? Because you're able to discrimination, as you're saying, that discriminating faculty.
Yes.
It's really important.
I think there Gurukulas still would be there teaching it. There are there. There's somebody called Vishwanath Dhital who teaches in Banaras, I know. There are many Gurukulas which from early childhood teach Nyaya. So if somebody wants it as a basic method of sadhana, that is where they should start. So I learned it as something to be applied in computer science.
Yes,
I looked at it academically. So, yeah.
But so this is only the process. You said the 4 ways to actually know something. And then you're all the time just being aware that whether you have stuck to this and you're getting the right knowledge.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
Because I think even if we are on different sadhana paths, as you would have also noticed, we are doing that discrimination in some form.
Yes, we are.
We may not be doing Nyaya method if we don't know also.
Yeah.
But we are all the time doing.
Yeah. In fact, I think the darshanas are not mutually exclusive. They appeal to different kind of jivatmas. We have come with our own prarabdhas. So somebody who has come with a very logical kind of a prarabdha, Nyaya might be the way to look at the world. But it is not in contradiction to yoga.
Yes.
It's not in contradiction to Vedanta. Right? In fact, their model of Atma is far closer to Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. The Ichha Jnana Karma. You have some background to Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. Right?
Very little. It has always been on my to-do, like to look at it, but I have not yet. You can talk.
If you have a logical mind and you think you need to organize information, Kashmir Shaiva, I was that guy. I was a guy who would not be able to sleep if I have two contradictory notions. I know that science says X and I have seen it work in the lab, and Gita is saying something which I don't see. I would not be able to sleep. It got resolved in Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. I have a full view which is satisfied. My questions have ended. The logical questions have ended. And I think this Sadhguru's lineage is the Siddhanta Shaiva Tamil lineage, right?
I have not identified it yet. I have had some, I don't know. I have not thought through, but you feel it is like that, is it?
The Siddhanta Shaiva's own Sadhguru Shivamma, right? As their own. They own Palani Swami as their own. So I'm sure that there is.
I was always supposed to research into Palani Swami actually, but I didn't actually do it.
He has gone beyond. He himself in this has gone beyond and have invented new methods and all of that. I'm sure, but I think the basic lineage he comes from shares that view with Siddhanta Shaivas. That, and I have no, I don't know. I always thought so. If
Because
now that you have asked,
no, because just the other day one Anna from Isha called and he wanted to tell me and he was like, Sadhguru is Nath Sampradaya. And I'm like, why, man? So he was like, I have met a lot of Nath people and I know Sadhguru and I feel it. So
no, he is not Sampradaya. So I really think that he has gone beyond the boundaries of any
yeah.
Sampradaya. That is true. But that does not mean he doesn't have lineage. I think he comes
Lineage
from.
is what the one we need to trace actually, but I also want to actually do some very rigorous work into it. Probably the people who would know is a little better are those Prem KV and Vijay Kumar are the ones who did the documentary on Sadhguru Sri Brahma. I don't know if you are aware of
I
it.
met Prem Kevi by chance. I went for some thing at the Devi temple, in the Bhairavi temple, and he was also there. So I came out and I met him and talked to him. And he says a very weird line. He says that people don't realize that Sadhguru's birth and work is a millennia important event of importance across millennia. He says that thousands of years impact is going to have. So he has some sense, I think, of that also. Uh, but I think the Siddhanta Shaivas of Tamil Nadu and the Kashmir Shaiva Darshan actually are completely same.
Wow, that's
There is
awesome.
absolutely, I found no difference. So there is somebody called Ghor Angiras on Twitter, at Ghor Angiras, who is a Siddhanta Shaiva person. He's slightly trad and he has slightly, I think, also some issues with Sadhguru. but even then, uh, whatever he says about Siddhanta is almost matches with my understanding of Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. And it gives it these things sort of intellect को शांत कर देते हैं. Because they give you a theory which says that there is so much there in the background and this is its theory that your mind doesn't need to ask these questions anymore. There is a path and various paths are there. They also have a mapping of the path. The 112 paths methods are there completely explained in Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. And they map the theory behind those paths is exactly which the maps Siddhanta Shaivas. In fact, the Panchakritiya Shiva, which is always doing the 5 things, the what they call it?
The 5 directions, Ishana,
no. So the Siddhanta Shaiva model of Shiva is 5 Panchakritiya: Srishti, Sthiti, Samhar, Tirodhan.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Anugraha. So the Nataraj statue, the midget on which Nataraj is standing is ego. It's metaphor for ego. And he's stamping it down with one leg, and one leg is going up in the air, and there are 4 limbs. One of it has Damru, which signifies creation. Another has this Ashir Mudra, which is Sthiti, sustenance. Another has fire, which is destruction. And there's a one hand going across, which is Tirodhan. He's hiding. So basically, right now, my consciousness is looking at this screen and this light and everything. And this is what has been created in my consciousness. I see somewhere else it gets destroyed. I'll keep looking at it. I sustain it. And I forget that I am doing it. So this 4th action is forgetting. Tirodhan is hiding, basically. So I only create in my consciousness the objects. I sustain the object. I destroy the object in my consciousness. And I forget that I am doing it. It's the 4th thing that the Shiva does. The 5th is that it remembers that it is doing it, and that is a moment of joy. So every time there is a consumption, that I drink water. So I am water, but I have forgotten that I am water. And I drink it and I remember, and that water meets water, and that is satisfaction. That is called Anugraha. So the 5 things is what the Shiva is doing, and the 4 limbs of Shiva, 4 hands, and the fifth limb, the leg going against gravity in dance is that Anugraha, joy, basically. So that is the Siddhanta Shaiva view of Shiva. Matches completely with Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. Totally. It is so.
It's great. I mean, it's great that it's matching, right? And it's probably because all of these yogis would always actually keep communicating and.
Yeah. And I think they looked inside and they found it.
Yes, that also.
That's also there.
Yeah.
But
no, but they actually Sorry. I actually feel that they interacted a lot more than we think. I know this view of they found it inside, that's why they say the same thing, but I actually think they interacted a lot more than we anticipate. Especially a little bit, I've poked my nose into the Nath Sampradaya and people keep saying it's totally loose and all. I don't think it's as loose as they keep saying. I'm sure there are like...
What did you figure out about Nath Sampradaya? I would like to listen. What is
Nothing
your...
much. I went and poked my nose. It's not enough to speak, but I met one of the Matatish in Nepal. Then I hung out at some other Nath Mat in Nepal only.
Okay.
And then I was drawing some lines and I read a lot of stuff and I said, no ways, they are so politically active.
Yes.
I mean, these people are really active. They are not going to simply sleep and say, "Oh, mat mein jo karega, wo karega, mere mat mein aisa." They're not like that. They're going to know. They're going to talk to each other. They're going to be on top of things.
They actually fought wars in the past.
Yes, so they are very active. They are just underground, and probably because the way they act and the way they dress, first of all, is so different that for us it is a blind spot. Like, who is this? Kind of a crappy
So many
looking
of them
guy.
are not. In Maharashtra, you know Sant Dhaneshwar, right?
Yeah.
He was a Nath Sampradaya.
Yeah.
This philosophy of Nyaya that I told, there is a parallel philosophy in Vyakarana also, which was done by somebody called Bhartrhari in first century AD, BC. He was a Nath Sampradaya. There are people across history which are Nath Sampradayas, which is...
Yes, when I start poking my nose, that same everywhere they are there. I'm like,
they are there.
no.
Some people say Sai Baba is Nath Sampradaya.
Yes, not just Nath Sampradaya. So Sainath, the Sai Satcharitra which is there, officially they have mentioned him as Nath Sampradaya. And they are saying
him is Nath Sampradaya, right?
Yes.
Born a Muslim.
Yes. The Nath Sampradaya didn't have any religion. Like there is, even now, like this Yogi Adityanath, they speak so much. But one time he traveled to Gujarat to meet one old Nath Sampradaya leader of his own group. That guy is a Muslim Baba, but he's a Nath Sampradaya. And Yogi Adityanath recognized and went to meet him so respectfully. And they keep saying he is Hindutva and all this stuff. But dude, like he's belonging to Nath. Nath does not have religion.
Yeah, Nath does not have that foundation at all.
That foundation, I don't know.
I found a very weird book you might be interested in. It's called The Gorakhnath Enlightenment.
Oh, I mean, name is so...
That book is written by this member of this family which runs the Kal Nirnay calendar. No?
Yeah.
That company, owner of that company wrote that book.
Oh.
It connects even the Bauddhas with the Nathas. It connects the Tibetan gurus also with Nathas. I generally know because of family, people talking about it. My brother is also very interested in all this. I have not studied, so that's why I was asking, what is it that you figured out about Nathas?
Yeah, I mean, I just figured out they are so much more prevalent than imagined possible.
Yeah. There is so much to know and I don't know what we should... we should keep talking. There are many things to talk about.
There are a lot of other topics to also
talk
open,
about,
but so the Nyaya part, have we completed it?
I think at the introductory level, yes. If you want to go into details, there is a lot of things to talk about. Nyaya is a vast topic. We can get into the gunas and how they affect the... One thing I can just talk about this model of Atma. So they say that there is Jivatma, which has 9 gunas. Jnana, Sukh, Dukh, Ichha, Dvesh, Prayatna, Dharma, Adharma and Sanskar. So they say that repeated Sukh causes Ichha. Repeated Dukh causes Dvesh in the Atma. Okay. Repeat, and Ichha and Dvesh causes Prayatna. You can act because you have some Ichha, or you can act because you have some Dvesh, dislike, basically. And if you keep your Jnana Yathartha, then the Prayatna stops happening from Ichha and Dvesh and starts originating from Jnana. And they say that the fact that repeated Sukh causes Ichha means that Ichha Purti will not cause Sukh. So they say that all other tendencies of the Atma, other than these 6, there is memory, sanskar. So that is 7. The remaining tendencies of Atma, they divide into 2 categories, dharma and adharma. Anything that causes long-term sukh is dharma. Anything that causes long-term dukh is adharma. So all activity happening inside our consciousness, they divided into these 9 categories, 9 types of things. You're happening sukh. So I think this is another Nyaya thing that should have talked about. So I talked about it. There's so much to talk about, but I think this is something which is relevant to spiritual people, because we don't look at our the Vedantins will always talk about Atma as something which does not have gunas, right? Yogas will use the word mana buddhi ahankar. They have a different model. Man buddhi ahankar is their model, right? Which is not this model which I'm talking.
It's not
Here
this model.
Not this model. They are in fact
You don't have a mind?
So in Nyaya, there is a word called mana, which is a focus of attention.
Oh.
And the focus of wherever you bring your focus of attention, whatever is there becomes jnana. Uska jnana atma ko hota hai. So that man is like a lens and atma is like the parda. So wherever you put your lens, that knowledge will come to the atma. So they say आप मन को कहीं ले जाते हो. So in the body, you can take your man to a place and you can feel what is happening there. In outside, you can take your man to, I'm right now sitting in Pune, I can take my man to Mumbai and I can imagine a location there. Right? So आप मन कहीं ले जाते हो और वहां आप मन ले जाते हो, वहां का ज्ञान आत्मा को होता है. That is the न्याय मॉडल. एंड आत्मा को ज्ञान के अलावा ये 8 चीजें और होती हैं, सुख दुख. ठीक है. So that is their way of logically there, because they want to think about everything logically. So they have logically mapped out the activity that happens within us also in 9 categories.
But
and I thought about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought about it. Everything falls in this 9. Whatever is happening inside. Yeah.
But you said that Nyaya is taught first in the Gurukula and it does not actually conflict with any of the other stuff. So then how would this...
So if you take it literally, it conflicts. But what I meant by not conflicting is that the people who are Nyayikas, whose path is Nyaya, they will not have a problem with a yogi doing yoga. I don't mean that one person has to take one model if he's intellectually sharp and does not want to have confusion. He has to trust one of them over other. That is true. But in a societal setting, different people believing it need not be conflicting with each other. Their paths, the Nyayika can appreciate the yoga path, knowing that the yogi thinks that, and that is how that happens.
Yeah, I think it is like how you also, right? You knew so many paths and were introduced to them, but finally you found your thing in the Shaiva, Kashmir Shaivite stuff, which addressed your situation.
My questions. Yeah.
I think that is the biggest thing, even on our individual spiritual path, that we are just finding our connection, like what is correct for us.
Yeah, this idea that there is some one truth is actually not. It's like the ultimate being, whatever you call it, Shiva or whatever. He has got himself into this limited jiva, entangled into a particular way. So the way you are untangled determines how you will unentangle. So everybody is entangled in a different way, and that is why they have a different way of untangling. This Western urge to give one right answer.
Yes. I'm also realizing that our individual journey is so unique. You cannot have something for everyone.